Hello, my name is Brian Casey. I'm editor-in-chief of AntMini.com, and we're here at the 2016 edition of the RSNA meeting in Chicago. We have with us right now Dr. Perry Pickhardt. He is a radiologist at the University of Wisconsin, and he has been working for quite a number of years now on CT colonography, also called virtual colonoscopy. And there's some very big news in this field with respect to screening this summer, and Dr. Pickhardt is going to talk about that. Dr. Pickhardt, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. So yes, there was some major news that just came through after an unsuccessful cycle about 8 years ago with the United States Preventive Services Task Force, which last round gave it insufficient evidence to recommend as a screening test. They've now given it essentially an A grade, which will inevitably, we hope, lead to Medicare coverage through CMS.
That's big news. So what do you think led to their decision to do this? I mean, I understand it was a little bit of a surprise for radiology.
Well, in a way it was, although we felt this is something that's about a decade overdue, quite frankly. We previously were through the American Cancer Society with all the GI societies and the American College of Radiology already put forward guidelines that endorse CTC as one of the recommended tests, actually. And shortly after that, it was when the USPSTF came out with that insufficient, saying there was an evidence gap, and we disagreed strongly with that and had to wait for another full cycle. So although we expected it to happen, in some ways it took us a little bit by surprise because there was some indication that they weren't opening up their minds to the evidence, which we feel is pretty overwhelming in favor of CTC.
So what seems to be on track here is that this will eventually lead to Medicare reimbursement for CT colonography.
Right. In fact, when you receive an A or a B grade through the USPSTF as a screening test, I'm not aware of any precedent where CMS has not gone on to cover that for Medicare beneficiaries, which obviously would then lead to larger reimbursement, which we already have in to some degree with many private insurers covering CTC screening, which I think isn't well known, or people aren't aware of that. But yeah, we see no reason why it's not simply a formality that CMS would then cover this. But there is a formality of the national coverage determination that needs to be re-invoked.
Okay. And do we know when we might see that?
Well, we've petitioned through the ACR to start the process quite some time ago now, and it's just a matter of timing. I don't know. I can't. There's no crystal ball to really see. I know they have a lot on their slate, but clearly we need this within a year to really get our ducks in a row.
Sure. Now, what sort of people are we talking about who would be eligible for CT colonography screening?
Well, really, in essence, in my opinion, it's the best of the existing colorectal screening tests. It's what I would call, it's in the Goldilocks zone, in that it has the benefits of the more invasive test colonoscopy for detection, but it also has the benefits of the non-invasive stool-based test of being less invasive. We've never had a complication in our program with over 10,000 patients. So it really gets the best of both worlds. It's more cost-effective. Patients prefer it over colonoscopy as a head-to-head. It's more convenient. It doesn't require a driver. There's no needles, pain medication, recovery time. I could go on and on, let alone the extra colonic findings, which some have viewed as a potential negative. I actually view that as the glass being more than half full. Yeah. We see a lot of incidental detection, opportunistic screening, for example, osteoporosis screening.
So this is where you can use the CT scan that you collected for the CT colonography and use it to screen for like osteoporosis.
Exactly. It's much more than just a simple colon test, which you undergo invasive colonoscopy, and that is essentially a one-trick pony, an invasive one and an expensive one at that. With CTC, we can easily accomplish that portion less invasively, and then add the benefits of osteoporosis screening, abdominal aneurysm screening. We find cancers unsuspected outside of the colon, many other opportunities as well.
So then the people that would be eligible for this would be anyone who is of a certain age that would be eligible for your standard optical colonoscopy or other colon cancer screening tests.
Right, and in fact that's an important point, that even though Medicare really focuses on 65 and over, colorectal cancer screening for average adults begins at age 50. So that involves a lot of folks that are not Medicare beneficiaries, but are really the focus of our non-invasive test.
So what's happening with reimbursement for those folks? I mean, they'd be going through their private insurers, and so how commonplace is, how hard is it to get paid for a CT colonoscopy exam if you're not in the Medicare system?
Well, as I mentioned, there is a lack of awareness. At the University of Wisconsin back in 2004, we were able to get really broad private coverage, but that was a local decision. Since that time, it has spread to some national payers. There's a pretty broad, expanding list of some of the Blues and some other major insurers. There's a list available on the ACR website, and there's a fair amount of patients that are covered. However, it's gone unnoticed without Medicare, which is really the symbolic coverage. And once that happens, I think people will assume other payers cover, which many already do, but you need that critical mass to get a program going, and that's the other important point. This is not just a CT scan, it's a program like mammography screening would be.
What sort of advice do you have for imaging centers, hospitals, radiology practices that are thinking about getting into this?
Well, in some ways, we could be our own worst enemy if I see a lack of preparation just because it's been such a long haul. A lot of practices, radiologists, I don't think they're really prepared to unroll this overnight, let's say. So I think it's really important to start thinking about a programmatic approach. The radiologists need to have the appropriate software, which many do, but you need to be trained specifically. You need to attend a specific course and then read through a number of practice cases, if you will, and then you need to approach it as a program. We have a nurse coordinator, and it's not just a simple CT that we read and that's it. We follow patients and notify them of their next screening and so forth. So,
and where can people get resources? Are the resources online where people can learn about how to set a program up?
That's a good question. There are a number of resources. The ACR, I think, has a nice page. We also, through the University of Wisconsin, we have information specifically on how we've rolled out this program, which has been very successful. And I'd be happy to give those details.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Signing off for AntMindy.com, this is Brian Casey.